Hello. Today we are going to talk about how load balancing hashing works on Juniper router. Now, as we all know, the load balancing hashing decision in Juniper happens on the ingress FPC. So when a traffic is coming in, as explained in the diagram, so on a Juniper line card, there will be multiple PFEs. PFE 0 that is managing a set of ports, likewise PFE 1 which will manage a set of ports, PFE 2, this is not PFE 1 again, this is PFE 2. The numbering starts from 0, 1, 2 and so on. So some line cards may have 2 PFEs, some line cards may have 4, 8 depending on whatever line card models is in use. But the logic is as a traffic is entering a port that is controlled by the PFE, the hashing algorithm is applied. Now the hashing algorithm is applied based on the type of traffic that is coming in. So if the packet arriving is an IP packet, then IP hashing will be applied. If the packet arriving on the ingress FPC is an MPLS packet, then MPLS hashing with labels and payloads will be applied. Likewise, if the packet arriving is a layer 2 traffic like a VPLS, then layer 2 hashing will be applied. We will look into those hashing algorithms and how to identify that on the Juniper cards. Now, once the hashing decision is made on the ingress PFE, it identifies which destination port and FPC slot it has to send that packet out. So say a packet 1 arrived with a source destination combination. The hashing decision on PFE 0 said, I will send packets out of FPC slot 10 port 1, then that will go out of that port. Now if another flow arrives, a flow is a combination of source destination IP addresses, source port destination port. If all these parameters, so when I say that a flow, so if source, then if destination IP, this is source IP, destination IP, so that is destination IP. Then if you say source port, so under the layer 4 source port and destination port. Now this information is by default taken, so layer 3 and layer 4 information, and if these values all match, they become one flow. However, if any of these values change, like let's say the source IP address is different, that is another flow. So a flow is always hashed to a same link. So if all these 4 details are same, then the chances are that the hashing decision will make it and send it out of port 1. However, if the flow in any of these parameters changes, it is considered a completely new flow and it may go out of port 2. That is how the hashing algorithm happens. So the key part is hashing decision is always on the ingress. It is not on the egress. Egress just honors the decision made by the ingress FPC and sends the packet out. Now, how do we check what hashing algorithms are enabled on the Juniper by default? Now, I have an example here. EX or PTXs, there is a command called show forwarding options, enhanced hash key. Now, when you run it, it will tell me what hashing is enabled by default. So as I was telling, if the packet is incoming packet is an IP packet, which is an INET packet, these parameters are enabled. So source port, either TCP, UDP or SCTP, IP source and IP destination. As you can see, these 4 parameters along with protocol. So if it's a protocol TCP, protocol UDP, that is also considered in the hashing. So protocol TCP can be port number, protocol number 6. Otherwise, if it's a UDP, it can be protocol number 17. So I would say 6 or 17 in this example. So those decisions are taken into account and the hashing result is sent out of one port. If the packet coming in is an IPv6, again these parameters are considered. If the packet coming in is an MPLS, as we mentioned, so the labels are used by default when labels. So if you have 2 labels or 3 labels, all those values are taken along with the payload. The payload is also hashed. Finally, if as I was talking about, if you have packets coming in as a VPLS or things like that, then we do hashing based on source MAC, destination MAC, VLAN IDs. And incoming interface is nothing but the interface ID. In this case, it is disabled. So this is how it happens on PTX and PTX and EXs. You have this command that you can run, but the logic is the same. The hashing is done like that. Now, if you were to look at an MX, the same command, MX does not have this command show forwarding enhanced hash key will not work. So you have to log into the FPC. I'm just logging in here, and if you have show JNH LB, so it is show JNH load balance, you see it has got same parameters. So it can do hashing based on here. You can see it is using source port enabled, destination port enabled, Likewise for different protocols. So version 4, all different, even you can see MPLS is here, payload, ether pseudo wire, like that. For IPv L2 services, you can see MAC addresses are used for hashing. So everything is by default shown here. So V4, it says that I'm going to use source port, destination port. I don't use TOS, I don't use incoming interface index. GTPTID is just for tunneling protocols, I would say. That is by default not enabled. L2TP tunnel ID. So if you are having L2TP tunnel ID, you can turn on those features, and that can also be used in hashing parameters. But as a default, this is what the system does. Of course, you can turn off, turn on, or add anything you want in additional to what is enabled by default. As you can see, by default, these are all no. So if you want it, you can enable it through configuration. So for IPv6 also, when it says source port v6 and D port enabled, it also implies that the layer 3 information is enabled. So for MPLS payload will be considered for hashing. MPLS EXP is not considered. Control word present is not considered. For layer 2, like here, you can see here for bridge traffic, the MAC address and the payload is considered. Hope this is useful. Bye for now.